Okay, hello all. This is with Cupid. I'm on the Abido server, and this is going to be a side-by-side demonstration of the quest Elite using religion. It's not in the title, but it is Elite. I did speed the footage up 5% just to meet the standards with YouTube, so please keep that in mind. In terms of strategy, it's actually going to be the same strategy to accomplish the primary objective. However, the reason I'm doing this is that I have to use different strategies to accomplish the secondary objective, which in this quest is to destroy the enemy's town center. Now, and the reason I'm doing this is because with the creek, I'm able to accomplish this exclusively with just villagers and ships. After the quest is done, you'll see that I build a couple archery ranges to spam a couple Gastrophetes to take out the treasure guardians, but it's not necessary to accomplish the mission. With the Norse, it's the same strategy. There are similarities between the two civilizations in that both have fire ships. I should mention the Gare on mine. I do have the legendary fire flask that gives bonus ship damage. Both of them are very good on both civilizations. The Greeks have the long-range ballista ships. That makes all the difference in the world. Where the Norse, have the long ships. For me, I find even using Good Sailor Ramon in Age 3, which gives an extra 10% range to those ships, and even using the legendary arrows, the arrows of Emahotep, I think it's called, I forget, but it does give extra range. Even producing about 12 of those, I'm not able to always take out the enemy's town center. In fact, oftentimes I'm not able to do so. It's so inland that I'm not able to get that done. So that does mean that I have to improvise and use a different strategy, namely launching an infantry army onto their island in order to take out that town center. So in place of Good Sailor Ramon for Age 3, I use the Cowardly Colonel that gives bonus building damage to my Berserkers, as we'll see. I guess you don't necessarily have to make Berserkers because they are gold intensive. I did, but you could have the option of using Spearmen. You could also use Axemen, although I would advise against that because I like to keep my wood where it should belong, which is building docks, booming, building houses, and of course building ships. All that's going to take wood as well as fortresses that I build and another town center. I do build 2 town centers on my island. They're always right next to wood. In fact, right after that storehouse that I build right next to the stone there, the very next building I try to build is a town center. So I immediately start scouting on both civilizations to try to find a decent location to build that second town center. I find a pretty good one with the Greeks. With the Norse, I don't really like the map. I guess I should have, as I was doing this, I remember now, I probably should have built it along the shoreline on the left where I build that dock. With the docks, again, shortly after I build that second town center, the very next thing I really want to build is a dock, and I try to find a good location. With the Greek, we see that I try to build it near that gold or near that fishing spot as well, so I get pretty lucky there. And the Norse, it's out in the middle of nowhere, but you do see that I try to build those docks as far away from each other as possible. So even though with the Norse we see that I'm building a dock next to absolutely nothing, the reason I'm doing it is to kind of generate as much distance between those 2 docks as possible. With the Greek, I build those 2 docks side by side, and that's because I don't necessarily need to have that robust trade system in order to support the navy that I want to build. Again, with the Greeks, I just produce ships and villagers, and that's able to get this done and get it done much quicker. We'll see that I accomplish this about 4 minutes faster with the Greek, and that's kind of taking my time. I kind of take my time destroying and harassing the enemy before I take out that second temple. Again, the primary objective of this quest is to destroy the 2 temples. There are a total of 4 islands on this quest. You start out on 1. The enemy is on a strip that you cannot use ships to kind of steer around. You have to, in other words, go across their island in order to build docks on the backside in order to take out their 2 temples. I should mention with another thing that I was unfortunate with the Norse. I didn't like the map where there's not a great place to build that second town center. When I build fire ships, I immediately try to produce fire ships as quickly as possible on both civilizations. Again, it's the same strategy for both, and the main objective, I build 7 fire ships. Once I have 7, I launch. I go and I try to take out the enemy ships on that first well, that first island. Now with the Norse, I don't see any docks there, so that might you might think that that's a good thing. They don't have any docks there, but I do know that they are, of course, building docks. What it means is that they're building it behind their island, so that means that I'm not able to destroy their docks as quickly. It means they're going to have more time to build more ships. It means that there's going to be a pretty heavy and intensive navy fight once on the backside near their temples. Once I'm able to get over there, of course, I try to sneak villagers across. I think in this case, I only produce about 3 or 4 longships, and one is exclusively to use as a merchant ship to kind of transport villagers and troops across to their island. But again, we see here with the Greeks, I have the 7 fire ships out a little faster than the Norse, and I'm trying to take out their ships and that dock that I see as quickly as possible. You do want to keep in mind that they will rebuild their docks, so periodically you want to keep that in mind and kind of do some scouting with their fire ships, whatever, to destroy it so they don't continue to build more ships. Of course, if you are too slow in building your fire ships, they'll send their army to you. They'll build some merchant ships and start transporting those over. On this quest, it is imperative that you be on the offense as much as possible. You do not want to be defense. You have to be really quick in destroying their navy, really quick in building docks on the backside of their island, meaning sneaking villagers across. So, in other words, this quest can be pretty easy if you're really aggressive. However, if you take your time, the longer this goes on, the harder it is. Time is on their side. The longer this goes on, the stronger their army, the stronger their economy, the stronger their navy. You really want to be quick in stopping that as quickly as possible. So you really want to be aggressive, you really want to be fast, and the easier it is for you if you can do that. Now, unfortunately for the Norse, I don't have that luxury. I don't have the long-range ballista ships to destroy some of their production buildings, as I call it, the military buildings of archery ranges, barracks, and, of course, stables. So that means that they're going to have a little bit more time to build an army. So that means that with my villagers, once I get onto their island, one of the first things I do after building 2 docks to build ships pretty quickly is to build a fortress. And then I try to build a town center right behind that, and we see that on both civilizations. I use the same strategy. I try to build a town center over there, both to have population room as well as to have that option in building more villagers and gathering resources as quickly as possible. But I do have a fort there to kind of protect my docks and protect my villagers and such. And we do see the 2 docks going up there, and of course with the Norse, you do see the 2 docks on my island now. They're as far away as possible. I think I have about 12 merchant ships going back and forth. I also want to mention, on terms of gear for my fire ships, I just have the standard epic armor that gives, I think they're both maxed at 86.1% health. I use that instead of the legendary armor that you can get in Cyprus, I think, for about 15,000, the armor of Archimedes, I think it's called. What that does, it gives you crush armor protection, and that does help in terms of pirates and the Tamiat pirates. In terms of those catapult ships, they do crush damage. The armor of Archimedes does have crush protection. It is really helpful there. And here, I only think there's only about 2 ballistic trims that the enemy has. So there's not a lot of ships that give that crush armor. So I just prefer just to have that health and max that out as much as possible. There's not enough ballista ships or no catapult ships at all in this quest to really worry about. So I did want to mention that. Again, it is quicker to accomplish this with the Greek. My ballista trims are able to get that range and really devastate the enemy pretty quickly. With the Greeks, I am building that fort right next to those 2 docks. You'll see that I built a town center right behind it, and it looks like it's about the same. At the same time at which I'm building, I do have those 2 docks up and building that fort on both civilization. I've built a town center right behind it. Of course, I'm immediately producing fire ships on both civilizations. And again, my Greeks are able to see that, and I'm just using those ballista trims to really devastate the enemy and take out their buildings and really slow them down. And with the Norse, however, I don't have that luxury. So because my ships aren't out there destroying those, they're having more time to build that really robust army. And so with the Greek, we see that the enemy does not send troops over to harass my villagers up there in the fort and such, but with the Norse they do, and that's because they have more time. They do so just as I launch my infantry over. I do make berserkers, as I mentioned earlier, so that does mean I need more gold. I have about 12 merchant ships going back and forth generating gold. I build an extra 3 barracks on top of the 2 that they give me. I don't produce any military buildings with the Greeks until after the quest is accomplished. And I'm pretty slow in terms of I'm taking my time kind of destroying the enemy space with my ballista trims rather than destroying their temples as quickly as possible. But even having said that, I'm able to get it done in about 8 minutes. Um, Again, as I mentioned earlier, because they did not build docks on the south side near my island, but rather on the back side near the temples, that means that there's going to be a stronger Navy fight up there. My fire ships are able to take care of it pretty quickly and steadily. I think they have 2 docks up there, so I have to take that out as quickly as possible. Um, so when you do not see a dock on the south side, it's not really a good sign. Uh, I guess it does mean eventually that they will not be sending, of course, troops over to your island, so I guess that's a good thing. But you should be quick enough so that they shouldn't be doing that anyway. In fact, I think with the Norse, we see that they do have a merchant ship there packed with infantry, but where are they going to send it? My island's on the south, so do. So let's see what else is unique about this quest. The strategy, once again, is the same for accomplishing the primary objective. The ships exclusively are able to take that out. But the main point of this video is to just demonstrate that in the past I have not had the success of using Good Sailor Ramon and those arrows, legendary arrows that give bonus range, to have enough range, even with about 12 Norse longships, to take out their town center. That's just my experience. If you're able to have any advice for me, please let me know. But at least for me to accomplish that secondary objective of taking out the town center, I'm very easy to take that out with the ballista trims provided me by the Greek. But at the same time, with the Norse, it is imperative that I have an infantry, and that requires a robust trade economy generating gold in order to send my troops over and take them out. I have in the past used Good Sailor Ramon and those arrows. While it's not able to take out the town center, and I should make a note, we just finished with the Greek in a time of 7 and 51 minutes. I could have accomplished that quicker, but we did see that I was a little, took my time in destroying the enemy's base before, along the way, in other words. And that makes it a little easier for me to go through and clean up the treasure guardians that we'll see. But again, with the Norse, it's seems strategy for accomplishing the primary, but different strategy in terms of generating an infantry to send that over. So I don't really know what else to say about this quest. Fire ships are the way to go. With other civilizations such as the Celts, they're swan ships. I really like the swan ships. I like the arrows and such, but I think that Celts would follow I would recommend a similar strategy as the Norse when accomplishing this with the Celts. Send over some long swordsmen to clean that up, I would advise. In terms of Babylon, you're just out of luck. I just don't like their army. I don't like ram ships at all because, beyond damage, they just have building damage, and I don't see a lot of buildings out in the middle of the ocean there. Some of them do have infantry bonus protection, but I don't see a lot of infantry swimming out in the ocean to wipe out my ram ships. I just don't like ram ships. So they are able to accomplish this and get that done, but generally I do prefer the fire ships are my main attack navy of choice. But of course, the Persians, their catapult ships. I should mention also that with my Greeks, the ballista trims, I just have the regular level 40 epic ones, the throwing arm that provides decent damage and range. But with my Persians, one bonus I have there, I do have the Dionysus throwing arm. I think that goes from level 30 to 34. I have about 20% range. It does give really excellent range, and it's one of my favorite throwing arms for those types of, well, it is my favorite throwing arm for those long-range siege ships. So I really like that for this quest. So if you're running it with the Persians, those catapult ships that the Persians have, they're great, especially the way I have them geared with a Dionysus throwing arm. I'm not sure how much those would cost in trade, but I really recommend it for this quest. As much range as possible, the better, of course. And of course, we finished this quest quite a while ago with a Greek, and they're just kind of harassing, those villagers. If you just leave one, they can rebuild an entire empire, unfortunately. So it's important to be thorough and clean them up. With the Norse, we didn't have any trouble here with the Norse. We were able to clean those their base up pretty quickly. I always feel a little guilty when I delete villagers or fire ships. So in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, well, I'm just sending them on retirement. They did a great job, and so they're going back to they're going back home to party. I never feel like I'm killing them. It always makes me feel a little sad. But yeah, the berserkers are amazing. And again, I guess you don't have to go with berserkers, but they are devastating. If you do want to go with them, just generate the gold. It's an embarrassing moment here with the Norse. I was so quick in getting this done,